Is my TNA Lockdown 2010 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view just went off there. I gotta say, this pay-per-view was actually a little better than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting this pay-per-view to be much of anything. Now, was it anything like a great pay-per-view you must see? No, but there was a number of things on this pay-per-view that I thought made this pay-per-view overall a pretty much an average to good pay-per-view, and definitely a whole lot better than I was expecting. And one match on here really surprised me how great it delivered, and it was the Kurt Angle versus Mr. Anderson match, which is actually the match of the night on this pay-per-view. And going into this pay-per-view, I wasn't really looking forward to the match. I knew it would be, at least, average to good match, but it actually turned out to be a great match, a lot of good storytelling in it. And like I said, going into this pay-per-view, I would have never guessed that Kurt Angle versus Mr. Anderson cage match would have been the best match of the pay-per-view. But you had a number of other good things on this pay-per-view as well. Even the main event with the Lethal Lockdown match being the main event, it was kind of a little overbooked in a sense, but it still had some entertaining stuff in it, and it was at least a decent match. Now let me get on to my TNA Lockdown 2010 pay-per-view review. The opening matchup was RVD versus James Storm. This match was taking place to determine who would have the advantage in the Lethal Lockdown match. It was actually a good opener, good back and forth stuff. Really enjoyed this match with RVD and James Storm. Pretty solid opener. And RVD picks up the victory in this match after hitting the frog splash to James Storm in this match. So surprisingly, the face actually gets the advantage in the Lethal Lockdown match, which is something you never really see in a Lethal Lockdown match or a War Games match. But RVD picked up the victory. He was probably the whole night. He was probably the most over with the crowd. Either him or Jeff Hardy. This match I would give 2 3/4 stars. Pretty solid opener. Then the next matchup was a match that got added at the last minute. Originally it was going to be Homicide and Brian Kendrick teaming up to take on the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, but due to a flight getting missed, the X Division champion Doug Williams is stuck over in the UK due to the whole volcanic ash and all the flights that are getting banned in the UK right now. He was stuck over in the UK. So what they did with this match was the people that were already in the triple threat, Kaz and Shannon Moore, they stripped Doug Williams of the X Division championship, and the winner of this match took his spot in the match. It was an Xscape Match, 4-way match with Homicide versus Brian Kendrick versus Alex Shelley versus Chris Sabin, which I prefer that. I'm glad they changed to Xscape Match now. It was pretty good stuff in it, good back and forth stuff, but the problem I had with it was pretty much one of those matches that just felt rushed. Fairly short match. Homicide picks the victory up, and he goes into the triple threat with Shannon Moore, Kaz, and himself for the X Division Championship later on in the evening. You saw some good stuff from Homicide in there. Brian Kendrick, he did some decent stuff, and the Guns pretty much were the main stuff in the match that did a lot of good stuff within the match. But it was fairly short, really short match and really rushed. That was the only problem I had with it. But for the time it was given, I would say 2 stars. It was at least watchable. It was at least decent, I would say. Then the next matchup was Eric Young versus Kevin Nash, and this match I would probably say either this or the women's match was probably the worst match of the evening, which I think most people were probably expecting this match not to be much of anything at all. And fairly short match. They did make it short and sweet, which was the best thing in this. Kevin Nash picks up the victory after hitting the jackknife powerbomb to Eric Young in this match to get the victory, and a 1.5 star match. I would say, it was at least watchable, and thankfully they made it as short as possible. Then the next matchup was for the TNA Knockouts title and TNA Knockouts tag titles. Tag team match with Velvet Sky and Madison Rayne of the Beautiful People teaming up to take on Angelina Love and Tara. And the rules of this match were if Tara or Angelina Love gained the victory in this match, they would become the new TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions. If it went the other way with the Beautiful People picking up the victory, then they could either pin Tara or Angelina Love in this match and become the new Knockouts Champion. This match wasn't much of anything. It's just a typical, women's match in TNA, typical like WWE style Divas match. Wasn't much of anything at all. And the end of the match comes when at one point Lacey Von Erich gets involved in the match, hits Tara with either the Knockouts title or the Knockouts tag title during the match, knocks her out, and Madison Rayne goes for the victory, goes for the win, pins Tara, and with this, I guess Madison Rayne's now the new Knockouts champion, which I think if they wanted to go the route of changing the Knockouts title, they should have gave it to Velvet Sky. Not that, Velvet Sky and Madison Rayne are, one's a great wrestler and one's, just a shitty wrestler. They're both, subpar wrestlers. They're not that great women wrestlers, but I think it would have been better to give the Knockouts title to Velvet Sky. And like I said, just a typical, women's match in TNA, nothing special at all. 1.5 stars, pretty much equal to the Eric Young and Kevin Nash match. Then the next matchup was the X Division Championship match. This was Shannon Moore versus Homicide versus Kaz for the X Division Championship. And like I said earlier, due to a flight issue, Doug Williams couldn't get to this pay-per-view, and they had to strip him of the title. So they stripped him of the title, and like I said earlier in the night, they did the Xscape match with Homicide winning. He got the spot that Doug Williams was going to have in this match. And pretty good stuff in here. Good X Division match. You saw some good stuff with Homicide and Kaz back and forth. Shannon Moore, even though Shannon Moore, I would say, I don't want to ever see him as X Division champion. I would say he at least fits with the X Division. He actually has been doing a little better recently than what I would even expect from him. He actually did some pretty good stuff in here. He did a number of moonsaults within this match. Homicide did a double ace crusher to Kaz and Shannon Moore within this match, and pretty good stuff in here. And Kazarian picks up the victory in this match. After pinning Homicide, and I would say a 3-star match. So Kazarian's the new X Division champion. Now, with this and Doug Williams not being able to make the pay-per-view, you'll probably see at the next pay-per-view Kazarian versus Doug Williams in a singles match against each other, kind of like, saying that, Doug Williams never lost the title, so he'll obviously get a rematch for the X Division Championship. And Kaz and Doug Williams probably have a very good match next month. Like I said, the X Division match, 3 stars, pretty good match. Then the next matchup was Team 3D versus the Band. Now, it was originally going to be Scott Hall and Sean Waltman, but Sean Waltman missed the pay-per-view. He didn't come to the arena. I'm not surprised. I was pretty sure this is going to happen with either Sean Waltman or Scott Hall at some point missing a pay-per-view or missing a TV taping. So with this, obviously, Sean Waltman's probably going to get a little heat from this, missing this pay-per-view. Probably not too much heat, though, since, he's friends with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and he's, kind of a little close to Bischoff and Hogan as well. So he won't get as much heat as probably some other competitors in there. And I'm kind of glad it changed to Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, other than Sean Waltman and Scott Hall, because I think that at least makes more sense, them two teaming up to take on Team 3D, the former Dudleys taking on the former Outsiders, and this turned into a St. Louis street fight. So before the match, it was pretty much a Falls Count Anywhere match. They went all around the arena, some pretty good, pretty entertaining for a brawl. It was at least, decent. It was nothing special, but I think going into this, no one was expecting, anything like a special, great wrestling match or a great technical match. And it was good to change it into, a gimmick match within a cage of the street fight around the arena. They brawl a little bit out there, then Team 3D ended up picking the victory after hitting the 3D to Scott Hall in this match. So Team 3D picked up the victory in this match, and it was at least somewhat entertaining. I would say 2 stars, maybe 2 and 1 4 stars. Wasn't anything spectacular, but it was at least somewhat entertaining and a little better than I was expecting. So that's the plus right there. Then next up was probably the surprising moment of this pay-per-view, which was the Mr. Anderson versus Kurt Angle match. Now, doesn't shock me Kurt Angle had a great match with Mr. Anderson, but going into this pay-per-view, I wasn't really expecting much from this match, and I think most people going into it, they were probably expecting maybe something at least good from it because the cage element within the match, and them two might be able to pull off a good cage match, but I don't think anyone expected the quality of match they delivered with each other. This was definitely the match of the night. Great stuff within this match. Actually got a lot of time. I would say they probably got at least 25, maybe close to 30 minutes in this match. Definitely 25 minutes, and they did a lot of good stuff within this match. Kurt Angle was bleeding to a pulp in this match, and the thing with this cage match was that there was a padlock to the cage door, and there was a key in it, and they could, either Mr. Anderson or Kurt Angle could use that to get out the ring, because this match wasn't going to be any submission or pinfall. It was whoever escaped the cage first after opening the padlock and opening the door and getting to the floor, and that would be the winner of the match. You saw a lot of good stuff with this match. Kurt Angle, did a moonsault off the top of here, which looked like, with the moonsault, he pretty much landed it kind of perfect, but kind of hit Mr. Anderson in the head at the same time, which probably during this match, I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Anderson got a concussion within this match, because it definitely looked like after that moonsault, after he pretty much landed on Mr. Anderson's head after that moonsault off the top of the cage, that Mr. Anderson was kind of, not knowing where he was, or probably had some type of concussion. Maybe, I don't know if it was a major concussion, probably just a minor concussion, but he definitely got probably some type of concussion within this match. Very good match, great cage match. This is like the type of, singles cage match that, that always need to be done. It was very bloody, very brutal within this match, and pretty much the way this match was, where Kurt Angle kept on wanting to just beat the living hell out of Mr. Anderson. He was, wanting to pretty much, even though he could have got out of the cage a couple times and opened the door and just win the match easily, he just wanted to keep beating the hell out of Mr. Anderson. At the same time, Mr. Anderson, he was just trying his best to keep on getting outside the cage. Angle kept on pulling him back in, keeping him in the ankle lock, and with this match, only ending with Xscape, Angle had the ankle lock on Mr. Anderson for a good amount of time within this match, and just a great match. And then Kurt Angle picks up the victory after getting out of the cage at the end of the match, and picks up the victory within this match. And then after the match, Kurt Angle does a promo pretty much saying that he's going to be taking some time off, which everyone already knew that Kurt Angle was going to take some time off. I was pretty sure they might have done something to write him off the TV, but I guess they're just going to say, he did that promo saying he's going to be taking some time off, so he'll probably be gone for a couple months. I mean, he's going to be marrying his new girlfriend now, or his fiance now, very soon. They'll probably have a honeymoon soon, so he'll be gone for a little while, take a little break, probably, return probably at the almost end of summer, beginning of fall. That's probably when I see him returning, probably either in August or September. I probably see him at least probably taking about 4 to 5 month break, and this cage match was just great. There's one match on this pay-per-view you need to see. It is this match. I would say 3 and 3/4 stars, maybe even 4 stars you give this match. That's how good this cage match was. Then the next matchup was the World Heavyweight title match. This was the Pope D'Angelo versus AJ Styles. Now, normally I would have a problem with a world title match not being the main event of the pay-per-view, but this is one instant I think it's okay to do, because the main focus of this pay-per-view was the Lethal Lockdown match. I would say about 2 months ago, when the Pope D'Angelo had a lot of stuff leading up to this match where it looked like he had a good shot in winning this match, then I would say it was probably, good to put that as the main event, but they kind of did a bad job of probably building up the world title match, and they put more focus in the Lethal Lockdown match, so that made more sense, that being the main event over the world title match, at least in this instance. Most of the time I would say the world title needs to be the main event, but this is one time that I think it's, okay if you don't have the world title match as the main event, since the Lethal Lockdown was the main focus of this. But the world title match between AJ Styles versus the Pope D'Angelo, very good match. I would say the only problem I had with it was a little too short, but considering they had to have some time for the Lethal Lockdown match, and probably since the, Mr. Anderson versus Kurt Angle match probably went longer than maybe they even planned, or, going into it, most people probably weren't expecting the Mr. Anderson versus Kurt Angle match to even be as good as it was, or given as much time as it was, so they had to cut a little time for the world title match, unfortunately. But you saw some good stuff with the Pope D'Angelo and AJ Styles. Styles and Pope did some good stuff, good back and forth action, and the end of this match comes when AJ Styles retains the title after a cheap tactic, after using the he grabbed something from a cameraman, I think it was a pen or something, poked the Pope D'Angelo in the eye, then hit the Styles Clash for the victory, and AJ Styles retains the title. Pretty good world title match, 3.5 stars. And then the next matchup was the main event of the evening. This was the Lethal Lockdown match with Team Flair. Team Flair consisting of Sting, Desmond, Wolfe, and Beer Bunny of James Storm and Robert Roode, taking on Team Hogan, and Team Hogan being Abyss, Jeff Hardy, Jeff Jarrett, and RVD. And the first two people to start this match was Abyss and Robert Roode. Kind of a weird pairing to start the match off with. I Thought they should have had someone better start the match off with, but they did some decent stuff for the 5 minutes that they were alone with each other. Then the next person to come out there was obviously the faces had the advantage in this match. So the first person that came out there was RVD, then Desmond Wolfe came out, then Jeff Jarrett, then James Storm, and then Jeff Hardy was going to be the last person to come out on his team, but they cut to the backstage. His music was playing. They cut to the backstage, and he was beat down from Sting. Sting knocked him out with a baseball bat, and then Sting was the last person to come out on his side. Obviously, you saw Jeff Hardy come out there later on. After Sting was out there, his music hits later on near the end of the match, and Jeff Hardy probably did the sickest thing within this match was when he came out there. He had a kendo stick. He started hitting the Beer Money with it because Beer Money was outside the cage at this moment, and then Jeff Hardy gets on top of the cage. He tells the Beer Money members, James Storm, Robert Roode, to come up there with him. They come up there. You see them brawling back and forth with each other. Beer Money at first has the advantage, then Jeff Hardy gets the advantage, knocks down, I think he knocked down Robert Roode and put James Storm on the table. Then he got a ladder up, and he climbed on top of the ladder and did a splash from the top of the cage that had a ladder on top there through the table on top of the cage. Very sick spot, kind of like the spot that AJ Styles did back. I think it was either 06 or 07 lockdown. I think it was the 06 lockdown where AJ did the type of the dive off the top of the cage onto a table too. I think it was even James Storm back then as well, and that was probably the highlight of this. Jeff Hardy is probably the one person that kind of saved this when he came out here, went after Beer Money, then did the spot at the top of the cage, and then near the end of the match, kind of got overbooked a little bit, but you kind of saw this coming. Flair comes out there, then Hogan comes out there. They battle each other back and forth, and Ric Flair just keeps on getting the hell beat out of him by Hogan in this match. Flair was bleeding a lot in this match. He even got thrown through some thumbtacks. He kept on getting hit by brass knucks. Eric Bischoff was in the ring as well. And then the pinfall comes out of nowhere. You see Abyss hit the black hole slam to Desmond Wolfe for his side to pick up the victory. So Team Hogan picks up the victory within this match. And even though it was kind of overbooked at the end, I think Jeff Hardy's spot was good. You saw some entertaining stuff within this match. RVD did some good stuff in there. And really, it wasn't a bad match, but I've seen obviously better Lethal Lockdown matches. Probably one of the weaker ones, I would say, as far as a Lethal Lockdown match. I would say, 3 stars. It wasn't a terrible Lethal Lockdown or a War Game style match, but I think it could have been better, and I think the ending of it with Hogan and Flair and Bischoff in there was kind of a little overbooked, but you kind of expected it with it being Team Flair versus Team Hogan. You knew they would have some involvement in it, and Bischoff as well. You knew he would come in the cage, do something. You knew he would play some role within this match, and like I said, the ending kind of came out of nowhere as well. It kind of hurt it as well, but 3 stars for that match, and overall, I would give this pay-per-view a 7.5 out of 10. It was a whole lot better than I was expecting. I mean, I was expecting this pay-per-view to not be that great, not that be that good or that great at all. It actually turned out to be a pretty good overall pay-per-view from TNA, and I definitely would say this pay-per-view is kind of worth checking out. The Lethal Lockdown match was at least somewhat entertaining. The Angle and Mr. Anderson match, you need to see. That's the one thing on this pay-per-view you need to see. And the world title match with the Pope Angelina versus AJ Styles was good, but I was just wishing it would have been given a little more time, because I think if them two were given maybe another 5 to 10 minutes, they could have had an incredible, 4-star plus match where they just had, probably a 3.5-star match, probably a match that they could put on any night against each other, and I think they should have, given them more time, or maybe cut 1 or 2 of the other matches on this pay-per-view. That's the one thing that probably kind of hurt the world title match right there. You kind of had too many matches on this pay-per-view, and you knew some matches was going to probably have to be cut time, and that was the match they probably chose to cut some time with was the world title match with Pope and Styles. But it was a good match, and, really on this pay-per-view, you didn't really see any, matches that you would say were god-awful or terrible. I mean, even the women's match and the Kevin Nash and Eric Young match, I would say those were at least watchable. Now, would I say I would go back and watch them? No, but they were at least watchable. They were probably, at least average, watchable matches. Nothing, special, though. And those are the only matches that were probably, anything in the category below 2 stars. Everything else was above that. Everything else, saw, pretty much every other match was at least watchable, good, or some matches being great, like in the Kurt Angle and the Kurt Angle and Mr. Anderson match, and the World Title match was good as well. And Lethal Lockdown was at least entertaining. So yeah, that's it for my TNA Lockdown 2010 pay-per-view review. All right, peace.